Come on, is this it? Like, I need more. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm sitting in a little bit of a different setting right now because the lighting is absolute crap in my apartment, especially when it's winter. It is so dark outside. If I turn off all the lights in my apartment right now, it looks like I'm living in a cage. So I'm trying to make do with some of the light that I have here. But welcome back to my channel. Since the end of the year is already past, it's 2021, but still I want to talk about some of my most disappointing and some of my most surprising books that I read in 2021. And with these books, no, not in 2021, in 2020. With these books, I just mean books that I was really hyped about and I thought I was going to love, but then they were kind of disappointing to me. And with surprising books, it's not necessarily that they are my favorite books, but those were definitely a few books that surprised me in a way and that I didn't expect to enjoy so much. So without further ado, let's just take a look at some of these books. I'm going to alternate between the two because I think that's a bit more fun. So the first book that really surprised me was You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. If you've been following my channel for a while, you may know that I hardly read contemporary or like YA contemporary, and if I do read them, I tend to just enjoy them, but I never think that they are, you know, amazing, because I'm just not really into YA contemporary. However, I read You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson and I loved it. It was so much fun. This story is about a black girl named Liz and she really wants to go to this really cool university. However, in order to get accepted to this university, she really needs some financial aid, and unfortunately the financial aid that she was like counting on suddenly became unavailable. The one thing that she can do, however, to get this financial aid is to become prom queen, because the prom king and queen of this high school get like scholarships to universities. So she's going to try everything to become prom queen. This was such a fun and quick story. I loved the characters. I felt like they were my friends, and I listened to this on audiobook and I think it really brought the story to life even more. I thought it was so brilliant. And if you are looking for a diverse YA contemporary just with brilliant characters, a really fun story, fun romance, definitely read this one. This is one of my favorite YA contemporaries now, and it even surprises myself that I'm saying this. I enjoyed it so much and I even cried a little bit in the end. That's how much I loved it, and how just, you know, I felt for these characters and I really wanted more of these characters. So yes, definitely a very surprising read. Then next up, a disappointing read. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. This is, as you will probably know, a prequel to the Hunger Games, and this follows Coriolanus Snow when he was, I believe, 16 or 18 years old. He became president, of course, during Katniss's Hunger Games. But in this book, he is very young, and this is the time during which the 10th Hunger Games take place. I was really excited to read this book because it's like Hunger Games material. I wasn't too excited about the fact that it is about, you know, President Snow when he was really young, because of course he's a shitty character, and yes, I do like the villains and I'm always interested in the villain's story, but I thought there were so many other cool characters in the entire Hunger Games trilogy that Suzanne Collins could have written a book about. But of course I picked it up. I planned on doing like a reading vlog, a spoilery reading vlog about this book, but that didn't happen because I can never read a book, like a new release, in a week or so. I'm always too late, and it took me months to finish this book. So that failed, but I enjoyed this book. I was really into it in the beginning and I thought this is going to be cool, and I liked all of the extra information that was given, and also sort of the bridges between this book and the Hunger Games and how things became the way they are in the Hunger Games trilogy, and you know how it all started in this book. But then towards the end it just got really boring, and then the ending itself was just like, come on, is this it? Like, I needed more. So it was definitely a disappointing one. I still gave it, I think, 3 out of 5 stars because like I enjoyed the fact that it was about the Hunger Games and the extra information that was given, but I just wanted so much more and I really was not satisfied with the ending of this book. The next book that was definitely a very surprising read was Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This is a Japanese story. It's of course translated in English, otherwise I wouldn't be able to read it. But this was a story that I was really intrigued by, but I didn't expect it to enjoy it so much, and I actually kind of loved it. So the story takes place in a little cafe, and this cafe is very special because you have the opportunity to go back in time just in this little cafe. You can go back in time, have a cup of coffee, go back in time. People go to this cafe and they want to go back in time because they regret something, or they regret not doing something, or they regret saying or not saying something. So they go back in time to, you know, live through that moment again and maybe, you know, sort of change it for themselves. I had to think. This book consists of 4 chapters, and each chapter is like a short story about different characters who are going back in time. However, the main story is kind of like the same. You follow some of the same characters who work in the cafe, and then it only takes place in the cafe. When I was reading the first story, I thought, this is interesting, but I thought it might be a bit boring because it just took place in the cafe, and I don't know, I wasn't really into it. But then I just continued reading, and during the second story, just something clicked in my mind, and I thought, this is actually really brilliant. And the fact that it just takes place in this cafe is so unique. And then in the end, it kind of felt like the cafe in itself was a character, because you got to know the cafe so well, and I could really visualize this cafe in front of me, like I was sitting in this cafe with these characters, and I loved it. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I thought the stories itself were really beautiful, but also really sad at times, and just I felt for these characters, and they were just, I wanted to hug some of them. And of course it's like, it can't happen in real life, but still it felt so real, and I really felt like I was on this journey with these characters going back in time. This was such an awesome read, and I also got the second book in the mail as a gift, which was so kind. A follower of mine sent it to me, and I'm just so excited to read the second book as well. It like continues, I believe. It also takes place in the same cafe, so this was a very surprising read of 2020, and I absolutely loved it. Highly recommend this one. The next book that was a disappointing read was This Is How You Lose a Time War. I read this right at the beginning of 2020. I read amazing reviews about this book. This is a female-female romance sci-fi. It's sort of like time travel-ish, romance through time, something like that. It sounded really cool, and I was really intrigued by the fact that it was also really short and that people absolutely seem to love it. I love short books that people love. I love sci-fi, so, you know, I thought this is going to be right on my alley. But the reason that I was really disappointed by this book is the writing style. It felt like the authors tried so hard writing this book really whimsically that I honestly did not understand what was happening. Maybe because English isn't my native language, maybe because it really was like too sort of whimsical. I didn't enjoy the writing style one bit. Hence why I just really could not get into this book, and it definitely was a disappointment. I've heard people who really enjoyed the writing style, so maybe it's just me, but personally for me, this was a very disappointing read. The next book that was a really surprising read was The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I'm so happy I read this book. Okay, so I think 2 years ago, I think, maybe last year, I can't remember, I read Circe by Madeline Miller, and I didn't really enjoy it. I really wanted to love this book. So Circe is like a retelling, a myth retelling of this character Circe. I didn't know anything about Circe, nor any, like, I don't know anything about Greek mythology. But I heard it's a very cool feminist story about a strong female character. I thought, yes, this is going to be right up my alley. I'm going to learn about Greek mythology. I'm really excited. But I just couldn't get into the book. I just wasn't into it at all, so I really didn't enjoy it too much. So I was quite hesitant to pick up a different Madeline Miller book, but I was really intrigued by The Song of Achilles because everyone loved this one as well. So, you know, could have been the same thing with Circe, but it was not. The Song of Achilles was so freaking good. So this book is about Achilles and Patroclus. I didn't know anything about them. I just knew about like the Trojan War and the Trojan horse, and that is also what this story is about briefly. But the thing is, I didn't know anything about Achilles nor Patroclus, so everything was really new to me, and I was so into it. It was so freaking good. I listened to the audiobook and I just flew through it, and I cried a little bit. I was just like, I was so loving it. And that is also the reason why I suddenly thought like, oh my god, I really want to read more about Greek mythology and cool Greek myth retellings. So if you have any recommendations on like similar books to The Song of Achilles, let me know in the comments, because I really need more in my life. The last disappointing book that I read in 2020 was How to Stop Time by Meth Haig. You may know that Matt Haig is one of my favorite writers. I really enjoy a lot of his books, a lot, but there are just some that are not really for me. One of them is How to Stop Time. So this is about a man who can sort of go and travel back in time to live different lifetimes and like in different time periods. And the thing is, he can never fall in love, because if he falls in love, he will never like die and he will never age, but then the person who he falls in love with will age and will die. So it doesn't really work well, you know, falling in love like that. So we follow his story of him going... Oh, I'm not sitting comfortably. So we follow the story of him living like these different lifetimes, and he meets these really cool like historical figures as well. It's really cool. That was really fun. But the thing is, it was just quite boring and not a lot of things were happening. And I wasn't really into the characters, so it was just a disappointment. And I'm really sad because I really wanted to love it. But unfortunately, it was just a fun read, but I definitely expected more. So yeah, if you do want to read an amazing Matt Haig book, pick up The Midnight Library. It was one of my favorite books of 2020. It was so good. But let's end this video on a high note with another surprising book, namely A Christmas Date, a fake relationship holiday romantic comedy. That is what it's called. You may wonder, Britt, what? But this book was so much fun. So during just the Christmas season and the holiday season, I wanted to read some more festive Christmas contemporaries and like cheesy romance books. And I saw this one. It was only like 4 hours, I believe. It was really short. I saw it on Script and I thought, I'm just going to listen to it. It was so much fun. I gave it 4 stars. So this story follows a woman who is single during Christmas time, and all of her friends and family are always like, why are you still single during Christmas time? I get you, girl, it's so annoying. So what she decides to do is to hire a fake boyfriend. She works at this sort of modeling agency or like commercial agency where they have, you know, basically a whole database of models. So she finds a good looking model and asks him if he wants to become her fake boyfriend for the holidays. And we can all guess what's going to happen, but it was so cute and fun, and I honestly wanted more. Like, genuinely, I wanted this audiobook to be longer because I really enjoyed the characters. And apparently it's a 3rd book in the series, so there's more of these characters, or of this woman. I might actually pick up the other books as well. I'm so happy I enjoyed this book so much. It totally made me feel so festive. And it was just so much fun. Also, just during any time of year. You can also read it now in January, whatever. Pick it up. It's such a fun book. So that was definitely a very surprising read. So these were my most surprising and most disappointing books of 2020. Let me know in the comments some of your most surprising and disappointing books as well. I really hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And of course you can follow me on my social media and on my Patreon as well. I always leave everything down below in the description. And last but not least, I really wish you a very happy new year, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!